be true to yourself. And sometimes you can't worry about getting fired. You just have to say, I'm doing this with the purpose of helping the students. I'm doing this with the purpose to align. I'm looking to be more strategically, and it's going to work. And this past year has taught me to stand on that. And it's worked because, like I said, if you live in fear, you'll never get to the next step.
What up, though, Black Fridays family? Welcome back to another installment of the Black Fridays podcast. Now, today's guest is very special in the sense of every time they get up and go to work, they're doing it for not only the kids, but also the community. Miss Kerrie, how are you doing today?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Doing good. So thank you for joining the podcast. And you are the president and CEO of Detroit Public Schools Foundation, which is a very important title in our city. And I would love for you to be able to shed some light on the DPS Foundation and then also what it is that you do on the day-to-day.
Sure. So the Detroit Public Schools Community District Foundation, I am the president and CEO of it, and I'm the fourth president and CEO to take the realm of the foundation. We are the philanthropic arm to the district. And so, as you all know, DPSCD is the largest public institution in the city. Well, actually in Michigan. And so to be attached to that and be the philanthropic arm, we work every day to make sure that our students have equitable outcomes and equitable academic experiences, not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. And so our focus is on K through 12 education and doing everything that we can to make sure they have positive experiences so they can graduate and have fruitful careers or go into the next step, which is college. And
that's phenomenal. And in terms of you talked about how it benefits the students. I also would love to know, what are some of the things that you all do in the community as well? Because I know that it just doesn't stop there in the educational system.
Yeah. Our focus is education, but we understand that sometimes education will take a backseat if it's other holistic things that a child could be missing at home. And we understand that is not going to help them graduate on time. And so part of what we've been able to do is create more of a holistic approach and a whole child commitment, which is something that the district was already doing. And so within the last year, we created what's called Health Hubs, which is designed to be that holistic approach. So anything that you are missing, so let's say if you don't have proper, the basic needs like food, clothing, all those different things, now we're going to be standing up 12 health hubs in the neighborhood high schools that also work with the elementary schools and the middle schools that's 3 miles in that feeder pattern to be able to provide them with those things. Another caveat is nursing. And so we're trying to put nurses into that school too. So anything that a child would say, I can't go to school today because of this, we try to put it inside of the school so that there's no excuses. Or anytime you may have to leave school for a doctor's appointment or to get your exams and things like that, we have that inside of the health hub. And so the design is to help try to reduce chronic absenteeism and also improve graduation rates. And so we know because there's just some economic challenges within the city of Detroit, we knew that the focus sometimes can't just be education because sometimes that's not enough. A child needs additional support. And that's what we advocate to do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And in terms of your journey to doing this work and being in a seat that you're in now, what was that path like to becoming a president and CEO?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I am a DPSCD grad. I grew up on the east side of Detroit, 48205. And so I went to K through 12, John Trix Elementary School, Barbara Magnet Middle School, and then King High School. I'm a Crusader. And so that is DPSCD through and through. And so I've always had a idea of wanting to be a news broadcaster. And so when I went to college, which is Wayne State University, is where I graduated from. So the running joke within my friend group is that I never left the city, was that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be the next Carmen Harlan. And so I went to school for that. And then I fell into radio after I graduated from college. And so I did radio for a number of years until I realized that it just wasn't purposeful anymore. And I wanted to do something that kind of spoke to into my passion, into my heart. And so I had a friend who was over at Detroit POW, which is the Police Athletic League, a nonprofit that focuses on sports. And when she told me about a position that was there, I went apply for it. But because I knew I identified with the students, because I used to be a POW kid as well, I grew up playing softball. And so I understood what it would, take to communicate those efforts. And so I ended up being a communications coordinator over there. And I took that job just because I kind of identified with those that I was serving. And so then I got recruited over to Boy Scouts of America. And I originally was just over the Southeast Michigan region with just making sure that I did marketing and public relations for the council. And then I ended up getting promoted to like the statewide level of Boy Scouts of America. And I realized, again, I wanted to do something that speaks to those that I could identify with and those that I can serve. And I understood that that really wasn't the best spot for me. So then when I heard about Matrix Human Services, I fell in love with that nonprofit because not only did they focus on kids, but they focused on adults and they focused on seniors. And so when I applied and I got that job, I became the vice president of marketing and development. And then I stayed there for 7 years. And I ended up getting promoted there to executive vice president of strategy, marketing, and development. And I had an amazing time there because, like I said, we worked throughout the entire Detroit. And we worked from babies. Our largest program was Head Start. And then we went all the way to seniors. And so I saw the full totality of a lifespan of someone that's living in Detroit and all of the needs that is needed at every level. And so you kind of get a better understanding of how socially and structurally you need to design programs that's meant to support the students or families when you can see it on every level. And so when the recruiter reached out to me for this role, like I said, I had been with Matrix for 7 years. And I kind of just had to do a lot of praying and soul searching to say if this is right for me. But it went back to that identification and realizing that I am a DPSC kid. I can see myself through everyone that, comes to the doors. And so it was a right fit for me.
That's amazing because based on your journey thus far, you've had not complete life cycle because obviously you're still living.
Still
but
more. Still more to do.
You still got time to go. But it's definitely the life cycle of a Detroiter, 100%. And
absolutely.
You went through DPC. No,
DPS.
Yeah, I get tripped up. Yeah, it's a lot of letters now.
Yeah, so I was a DPS kid and now I'm a DPS CD. So it's like, it's the same thing. But now what I'm really trying to do is make sure that alumni come back just like I did. To start giving back because we have some amazing alumni that walk through the halls of DPS. And it's not just high schools, it's middle schools and elementary schools too. And elementary schools is when you get your formative years. So I always have to tell people, like, even if you didn't graduate from high school, you're still an alumni if you went elementary school because that's where you got your base. Yeah. That's where you started. And so give a reason to, give back. And giving back is relative, it's relative to each person's situation. So someone that's a millionaire can give back millions of dollars, but someone who can just give 25, it still matters. Because imagine if 1,000 people gave $25, you know what I mean? It's figuring out ways to how to increase people's, how to feel good and how to make a difference in the students' lives. What I always try to, as a fundraiser, I always try to tell people it's not about how you feel at the end of the day. It's about how the person that you gave felt at the end of the day.
Facts.
So oftentimes they'll be like, oh my God, I went to a soup kitchen, and I served food. I feel accomplished. It's like, you feel good. Yeah. But the real premise is to how to give them the tools that they need to not continuously need the soup kitchen.
Right.
Throughout, their life. And so that's when the hard work comes in. And it's not as easy just to go in a day of service and leave, but it's really just figuring out how to make the best decision for who you're trying to serve. And then seeing that full transition in their life is really something that speaks to me dearly.
Definitely a beautiful thing to see play out in real time. And I have some follow-up questions to that, but I'm introducing my favorite part of Black Fridays, which is Freestyle Fridays.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. So, Kerrie, I got some insider information that you will be dropping bars in the DPSF office. And
Who
I just
lied
need
to you?
might rumblings of a mixtape, something like that.
That's crazy. All right.
But no, Freestyle Friday is just rapid fire questions. They all about you, so you should get them right. And I just ask that you answer each one. You answer honestly.
All right.
All right. So let's do it. First one is a layup. What's your favorite color?
I don't have a favorite color.
Okay. How is that possible?
Because I just buy what I like and I see what I like. So sometimes it could be green, sometimes it could be purple, sometimes it could be like a nude color. And so it really changes with the season. So most people, again, I'm getting married. My fiance just proposed, and one of the things was, thank you. And one of the things was like, how well do you know Kerrie? And they're like, well, what's her favorite color? And most of my friends was like, she don't have one. So I don't have one. Fair
enough. You buy what you like.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is there a scheme in your closet if you go and look and like you got majority, or is it pretty evened out?
It's evened out. Okay. Like it's like sometimes someone will think like my favorite color might be green, but then I'll pop out with pink, and so I'm just all over the board.
Okay. That's what's up. Variety.
Yeah.
Variety. What is your favorite Detroit hidden gem?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know what? So this just became a hidden gem that's not so hidden, but I just went to the opening of the Michigan train station and it was amazing. So I'm from the generation that only saw it being abandoned. Yep. I never was able to get into it. And now that I actually saw it, I'm like, this is something that I just never fathom would ever come back to. So it's not a hidden gem, but that's the first thing that came to my mind when you said anything about Detroit that stands out.
For sure. Yeah. I still haven't had a chance to see it renovated. So that's my next goal.
It's amazing. I went up to the 18th floor and you can see out both sides, and you can see the Ambassador Bridge and the water on one side. And then you can see like the full like downtown area. It's just beautiful. And then some of the train tracks are still in the back of it too. So it's just kind of nostalgia to see like this is what the world was like, back then. So it's beautiful. If you ever get a chance to see it, go ahead and see it. It's really breathtaking what they did.
For sure. I'm going to tell them I know you, and then hopefully they'll let me in.
They probably say, who is she? But go ahead and try.
Speaking of talking about the old train station, where's a place that you like to travel?
A place so the best time that I've had traveling is when I went to Dubai last year for my fiance's birthday. And it was amazing. It was just a plethora of different cultures. And the experience was just something that it was always be memorable. It's one of our favorite trips. So I would encourage anyone to go to Dubai.
I'm putting that on the list for sure.
Yeah.
I'm putting that on the list.
Yeah.
And do you have a preference in terms of where, or I'll ask this one. In terms of if your phone can only do one of these three things, would you prefer that it only text message, phone call, or video call?
Maybe just text message.
Okay.
Yeah. Get to the point.
Yeah. Keep it short and sweet.
Short and sweet. The pleasantries is okay, but let's get to the point. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And last but not least, what would you say is one of your favorite perks about the work that you do?
The kids. Seeing the kids, seeing the smile on their faces, actually, and transforming lives, like I said, from not just the kids, but parents. And so that was one of the things at Matrix that I absolutely love, because when you think about giving, most people are like, oh, it's for the kids. Of course, why not? But when you talk about what you're trying to do for an adult or a parent, they're like, well, why don't they know this stuff already? And it's this expectation that because you are a certain age, you're just supposed to be knowledgeable of certain things. And it's one of the worst things that people can think, because you don't know what you haven't been exposed to, and you don't know if you've never had access to it. And so to transform an adult's life, to have them thinking completely different and unlearn some of the things that they've learned, it's not as simple as what you could do with a student, where you could just maybe be in their lives for 6 months. With an adult, it's usually about 18 to 24 months to change perceptions, change ideas, and go a different way than what they have been going before. And so in explaining that to a funder or to someone who's giving, I'm like, well, look, we can do this, but the investment is there. The investment will be tenfold if you just let it take its course. But if you're expecting an immediate change, this isn't maybe the best way for us to use your dollars. But if you want sustainable change and changing a generation, it's going to take that long, but it's worth it. And that's what I would say is the best part of my job.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you for engaging in Freestyle Fridays. You passed with flying colors. So, yeah, job well done.
Thank you.
And I want to ask you more about the work that you do, obviously, with the foundation. And because it is a nonprofit 501c3 organization, I wanted to know in terms of like the when you're in a nonprofit, you're always like funding, like you'll always be selling is what they say for people in
it's
corporate.
Tiring, but it's worth it.
Exactly. I was curious as to once you have that funding, how do you all as a team identify, how do we divvy up where money goes and how do we allocate it, or how do we start new programming for students and fill voids for different needs?
So I think the first thing that you need is a plan, because oftentimes, like I said, sometimes you'll get people who want to support and they'll come to you. And then sometimes you have to actually go out and fundraise for the initiatives that you want. And so that comes with a plan and alignment. And so because we're so closely aligned with the district, I get to speak with Dr. Vitti and understand some of the things that he's looking to do district-wide. I was very aligned with him in thinking we have 105 schools. So we need to be intentional about how we can support 105 schools and 48,000 students and their families if we can. And we know that that is not cheap, or that's not a small endeavor. But if we're going to scale, let's scale high and let the impact be just as high as well. And so when we came up with these initiatives like the Health Hub isn't a cheap initiative. It's about I would say to run it effectively, it's about $1.5 million a year. But then you also have to stand up and build out those things as well. And then when you think about what we're trying to do with athletics and what we're trying to do with academics, those are with academic interventionists and making sure that those students are prepared for college and making sure we have dual enrollment. Dual enrollment essentially is as you go through high school, you also have college courses. And so that means you could graduate with a high school diploma and a associate's degree from either four of the partners that we have. And so when you think about when they say that they can't hire Detroiters, if that's the narrative that goes around the city of Detroit, there's no qualified Detroiters. I'm like, well, help us make them qualified, because we can get them into college or we can get them into work-based learning. And that means, and work-based learning is essentially you go to school for a few hours and then you go to a work-based site where you get paid a stipend to be able to learn. By the time they graduate, they should make a livable wage or go to college. But in order to do that, that's not something that is funded through public education. And so that's where we kind of lean on our philanthropic sources to say, help us be able to have every student also enrolled in dual enrollment so that even if they don't decide to go to college, they still have an associate's degree that puts them above the fray to get a livable wage, and then help us dispel that theory that Detroiters aren't qualified for all of these new jobs that's coming to the city of Detroit.
Yeah. And I'll disagree with you in the sense of we're not qualified, we overqualified.
I will say that too. Yeah. And let's continue to make them overqualified so that they have a choice. Right. Because I think that's what's also important too. I hate the stigma that, if you don't go to school, you can only do this or you can only do that. Right. I want to put as many options inside right in a student's face to say you can make a quality choice of where you want to go. I chose journalism when I went to school. And it's not because I didn't have exposure. I knew it's just my brain ain't good at math and all the other stuff. I know enough to get by. But, I had the choice of where I wanted to go. And I think for students, we need to ensure that they can make quality, good decisions based upon the experience that they had. If you played sports before, or, if you're raising children, you'll know that sometimes it takes for you to show them maybe 4 different sports to see which one is good for them. Or music. I'm the youngest of 4. And so my siblings, they both played clarinet and the flute. So they just assumed that I would be great. And I was actually pretty terrible. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, that's not my thing. You know what I mean? But my other sister, she played basketball. Not my thing either. I tried, was terrible too. So then once my mom put me in softball, it clicked and I played softball throughout, all the way up to high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's those options that you want to give to make a real-rounded student.
And speaking of those options, for me, I did co-op my senior year in high school, and I'm assuming that falls under the umbrella of the program and that you all be able to supplement. I want to ask you, when you were in DPS, what programs did you utilize that were similar to that, or what did you take advantage of that the schools offered?
I'm happy you asked that question. So I went to King again, and I was in CISC, which was Center of International Studies and Commerce. But I was just with my friends from high school the other week, and we were laughing about how mediocre I was. I really just did not care about school. It just wasn't something that just spoke to me. So I did enough to get by. So I was an A student when I wanted to be, and if I didn't feel like it, I just wouldn't apply myself. But since I played softball, I had to at least stay above a 2.0. So sometimes I would get as low as a 2.0, and I would get as high as a 3.5, depending on how I felt that semester. And I went to school because my friends were all applying for schools. They were going to HBCUs, and I was like, I applied at Wayne State, so I'll probably just go there, figure it out. And it was because I just surrounded myself with people like that. One of my best friends from elementary school, she was like, well, you don't want to go anywhere? I'm like, let's say we go to Howard or something like that. But I really didn't care. It didn't bother me. And I'm happy that I surrounded myself with positive influences. Because at Wayne State, that's when it kind of clicked for me to say, okay, well, let me do something. Again, I always had the idea of being a journalist, but I really didn't think about how to actually get there. And so when I was in high school, to go back to your question, other than being in that program that I had to, apply to get into, other than that, I really didn't go to a co-op. I didn't go to a vocational school. I didn't go to any career techs. I didn't go, I didn't at all. But I was happy that, like I said, I just surrounded myself with people. And then by the time I got to college, it really just clicked. And so when I first got my first internship in radio, it was because my godbrother was interning at the time. And so he was like, oh, I can help you get in here. And then once I got in and they said, you have a really good voice, or you know how to produce, I fell into that. And then when I interned at Fox 2, I was able to do my demo tapes and work with some of the anchors and reporters at that time. And then I went to Toledo and did that for a few. And so that's how I kind of just start matriculating into my actual field. But had I had those options in high school, it probably wouldn't have, taken me that long. But I'm grateful for each of the opportunities. But I also know how a student feels when they are not inspired for whatever reason. And I think luckily I had friends and I had family to kind of help curtail me, but I know that I'm grateful for that. And I know that everyone doesn't have that opportunity. And so for me, I want to be intentional about ensuring that our students have those type of opportunities.
Right. Yeah. And at high school that I did a program out of, they had like a communications thing, after school program where somebody's teaching them how to like work the microphones and this how you do a radio show, things like that. So I'm sure like if you were able to get to that a little bit quicker, that might absolutely. You might be like, this is my thing. Now I'm locked in.
And it's just because I just wasn't inspired, but I knew how to do things. I knew how to. It's just whether I wanted to apply myself that day. And some people are just like that, where it's just like, not today. And then some people are like, let me get this out the way. And when you start to figure out what your passions are and you get in your right field, it doesn't feel like work. So you don't have to get up and be like, ugh, I got to do this today. Like every day, I feel great about what I'm doing. I feel great about the team that I put in place. I feel great about my board of directors. I have the support of, the school and the district and our philanthropic sources. And so every day I'm grateful just to do a little bit more than I did yesterday. So.
Dope. And speaking of that, in the role that you sit in now, what does your day-to-day kind of look like for a president and CEO? I'm sure no 2 days are the same.
Yeah, it's not. It's different. So sometimes you have to put out fires. Sometimes it's professional development for staff. Sometimes it's a full philanthropic day where I'm talking throughout the entire day. I feel like every day I have to meet with someone or have 2 to 3 meetings, at least 2 to 3 meetings a day, and then the work afterwards. And so I have to always be tied to my phone and an email, but I don't make it feel like work. I assembled a phenomenal team. that we all pull a lever together so we all know what our points are. I developed the strategic plan to get us where we're going in 3 to 5 years. And so now we're working the strategic plan. And so I figured out ways to diversify our income. Instead of just relying on philanthropic dollars, I would like to go after federal, state, and local funding. And that's something that the foundation didn't do before. And so, like I said, to do what we're trying to do for our students, it will take a collective effort and everybody has to pitch in. And so every day, that's what I hit the ground running to do.
For sure.
Yeah.
And do you have any pain points in terms of the work that you do? I'm sure like there's like red tape, roadblocks, things like that you have to deal with.
Yeah, I think so I won't say pain points. I would just say opportunities that can get better.
Yeah.
I would say with it being attached to a district and it being, highly political. Sometimes you have people who, only want to do things for a certain reason.
Right.
And what I've learned through this past year is all help is not good help. You know what I mean? And it's good to decline sometimes. Be like, I think I got it. Right. You know what I mean? But thank you. I appreciate your help. In fact, let me redirect you to something else. You know what I mean? Because I don't want that type of trouble. Yeah. But I learned that just being a little bit more strategic, listening more, and also being able to say and being strong or steadfast in what I believe to be true. I've been doing marketing and I've been doing communications. I've been doing fundraising for a number of years. And so also being able to say, I may look young, and I'm Black and I am a woman, but that in that I am an expert. And so some of the things I'm going to say and I'm going to have, and I'm going to stand on it because I know that this is going to be what's going to get us to the next level. And sometimes you have to be able to stand truthful in your things. And more importantly, I had to understand, don't walk in fear, walk in faith, and be true to yourself. And sometimes you can't worry about getting fired. You just have to say, I'm doing this with the purpose of helping the students. I'm doing this with the purpose to align. I'm looking to be more strategically, and it's going to work. And this past year has taught me to stand on that. And it's worked because, like I said, if you live in fear, you'll never get to the next step. And so I've always been a woman of faith, and I leaned on that. And here I am. You
just preached the sermon right there. You don't even know.
Listen, on my collection plate.
We're going to lock the door and pass around the plate. What are some things that you've learned about yourself since being in this role and being with DPSF?
You know what? It's patience and a support system. I got engaged December 28th, 2003. So it's about 6 months. And I've realized that trying to balance, a relationship and trying to lead at the same time has its pain points or this levels of opportunities. But I'm really grateful for my fiance for always being a support system and always being right next to me and being able to talk through, some of these things in a different space. Because he is not in nonprofit. He's in for-profit and he's an engineer. So it's a completely different landscape. But I'm able to bounce the ideas off of someone that has no skin in the game to say. And I take his, suggestions and I evolve it to make it apply to any situation at hand. And so what I learned this past year is just patience and walking instead of feeling like you always have to run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super dope.
Yeah.
And what are some things that you all are working on that you can share with us that are on the horizon for the foundation?
Yeah, so right now we are working on a high school reform project that we will probably announce, the district will announce soon, and then we'll be able to announce, what we're doing in partnership with that. But essentially is to ensure that high schoolers have a positive experience, that they will feel that it is reasonable for them to want to come to school and finish school and be well positioned for the future. So that's exciting. We are also fundraising for a camp. A lot of people don't know that the district owns a camp in Livingston County. It's off the water. It's 209 acres. That's something that people will pay prime real estate for. But it's a camp where students can go and thrive. It's arts and culture. It's physical activity. It's all of that in one. I remember when I went to camp as a kid, you would learn all of these different things. And it's in an area that usually a Detroiter would not be able to go to. And so what we've really been trying to do is figuring out how to repair that camp. You can learn how to swim, you can do overnight camp, you can do all of these different things. And so that's what we've really been trying to fundraise for, to get it back open so we can have all of our middle school students be able to go year round. And so that's one of our big initiatives too, in addition to the high school reform.
Amazing. And speaking of fundraising again, you all, I can't let you leave up out of here without talking to me about the Hall of Fame Gala.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're going to get to that too. But yeah, the Hall of Fame Gala in memory of Tyrone Winfrey, who was somebody who was super instrumental in not only myself, but a lot of other young people from Southeast Michigan, Detroit area, being able to matriculate to University of Michigan when he was working there during his time. And then also when he started to work for the school district following that. And just wanted to know, like, how did that all come about? How did the event go? You know, I guess my invitation got lost in the mail, but that's, you know, neither
you're
here
going to
nor
get
there.
one next time. I didn't know. I thought they sent it to you. But no, so the way that the Hall of Fame Gala came about was because of Tyrone. Tyrone had a initiative that he gave to Dr. Vitti and the school board and said, I really want to create something that brings alumni back together to help the current students. And so the Come Home Alumni Gala was the original name of the event. And so he led the event its first year. He was also succumbing to cancer at that time. And so if you remember, this was his last thing before he unfortunately passed away. And so in honor of that, we decided to change the name to the Tyrone Winfrey Gala to honor him in full, capacity. And so the second year it was kind of somber because he had left. And so it was sad. And so this year, now that it was falling under the foundation, I wanted to still keep his name in honor of him, but change it to the Hall of Fame Alumni Gala, just because it just worked well with, the Hall of Fame and all these different things. And so I wanted to ensure that we could sustain it for years to come. And so I also wanted it to be a good time and not just an overall, just like an award ceremony. Because I know that Detroiters, especially those that are giving now, don't want to just sit down and have like a regular chicken dinner, unfortunately.
Of course.
It's like you're going to have to somehow make it fun, festive, and you party with a purpose. And so in the redesign, I kind of, like I said, be true to what I think will work. And so they were like, well, we want to have it at Huntington. I'm like, I want to have it at school. And they're like, well, why? And I'm like, because if you don't have a high school or if you don't have kids, you ain't coming back to a school.
Right.
And so your perception of a school is going to be what it looked like the last time you were there. And our real estate is getting better every single year. Persian is getting, I think it's Persian, and Denby is getting a new school.
Okay.
Cody is getting a new school over the next, 3 to 5 years. But when you think about a DPS school, you see what's has been in the headlines, which is they don't have no air conditioning, they don't have that, which is true. We're working on that. But it's some schools that are really, really good real estate, and we should be able to show those things off. And so the first year we had it at Mumford, and it was exciting because people were like, I thought it was still that Blick Blue building. And I'm like,
no, Mumford got an upgrade.
I said, when the last time you been to that side of the town? But you don't know if you don't have a reason to go. And so the intentionality was there to say, come back and see where we're educating our students, come back and see what we've been doing, get excited about public education, and figure out a way to come back and help us. And so that's what the Hall of Fame Alumni Gala was. And so we honor Reverend Dr. Wendell Anthony because he has been a wonderful supporter of public school education. He's always a champion of the high school that he went with. And he don't really go far without talking about DPSCD, which is a good thing. We also honored Bishop David Ellis, and then we also honored the Grant family, who gave us a really great donation there. And I won't say the amount of the donation just because they are really a private family who's always has supported us, and they are just two wonderful beings, and they're DPSCD grads. He graduated from Cooley, class of 73, and his wife graduated from Southwestern, class of 72. And when I originally met with them, maybe the first couple of weeks that I joined the foundation, they asked me like, well, what are you looking to do? And I remember I had these big grandiose ideas, and they're like, well, how are you going to do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just got to figure it out. You know what I mean? But they have been a fabulous partner and a wonderful partner, and I just can't thank them enough. So because I had the opportunity to honor them, it was life-changing for me as it was with them. And then we ended up getting Dougie Fresh, and it became a party. And it was, and people, and it was a memorable experience. I felt like when I went to the Mackinac Policy Conference like a week or 2 weeks later, 10 or 15 people, no exaggeration, was like, I came to the party and I loved it. And that made me feel good because they were like, I didn't know what to expect, but you all really showcased DPSCD in a really, really great light that they had not seen before. And they are looking forward to next year's event. And so I feel like I did my part. So in that, I raised quadruple what our fundraising goal was. I also had about 800 people inside of the building as well. And it was so many different things that you can do. I remember one guy saying, I felt like I went to 4 parties in one. Like I went to like an award ceremony, and then I went to a concert, and then we had a speakeasy lounge like in the tent area where Jessica Care Moore and Jeff Ponders performed. And then it was an array of food, and it was 90% produced by alumni. And it was to showcase like alumni from DPSCD is out doing great things, and we need to showcase that. And so I stayed true to that. I was like the 10% because Dougie Fresh ain't alumni, but for in general, like it was just amazing to see so many people come back and be proud to not only be from the city of Detroit, but to be from DPSCD, because now, you know, you got so many options that you can go to now. You can go to charter school, you can go out of this, but when you still choosing DPSCD, that's a great thing for us.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm long-winded, so I'm sorry. That was a long answer to how Hall of Fame was.
That was beautiful. I started to get a little jealous when you started talking about all the stuff y'all had. So
we're going to have one again next year, and you will have your invite.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Right. Definitely. You and your wife. Yes, y'all in there.
Thank you. Well, Kerrie, I definitely appreciate you pulling up to the podcast and giving us your time today.
Thank you.
In closing, I wanted to ask you real quick, if there's anybody, the work that you do and what you've been able to accomplish thus far in your career, definitely not a small feat, especially the seat that you sit in right now. So I was just wondering if any parting words that you may have or encouraging words for any young ladies out there who may be watching this podcast, or anybody who might be like middle of career, any young men, any Detroiters that would love to be able to run an organization one day and be at the head of the table, so to speak, and be in that position or whatever it is they aspire to do in life. If you had any encouraging words for them. Yeah,
my encouraging words will be to stay true to yourself. Always be willing to learn, and always have a lot of different mentors. And it's not mentors that tell you what to do. It's mentors that give you a full landscape and allow you to make the best decision of whatever that decision is. And I can't say that enough. And have some diversity in your mentorship too. And so, and when I say diversity, it's not just race, it's from man, it's woman, age, and all those different things, and help guide you to making the best decision. And just always be willing to learn, never give up on learning and figuring out what is out there. I think as soon as you stop learning is as soon as you stop growing. So it's a lot of 50-year-olds that's still 20, just because they don't want to grow. They don't want to learn. They think they know it all. And so I always want to be willing to learn, and I will say that to anybody.
Love it. Well, I really, like I said, appreciate the time that you took out today to be here, and then all the work that you're doing is super important, and I love to see it play out in its totality, and wish that I'm a little jealous in terms of being at my old age now, seeing all the resources that they are starting to get in terms of DPS.
And we didn't have that, and we made it, but let's make it easier for the next people.
That's what I'm gonna say. So now it's on us to be able to make sure that they have what they need, whatever we didn't. So really appreciate the work that you're doing, and thank you for being here.
No, thank you. And if anyone wants to get involved with us, just go to our website, dpsfdn.org, Google Detroit Public Schools Foundation, and it'll pull right up. We're looking for you to get involved so you can help us. And no donation and no time of service is too big or too small. It's really what that individual wants to do. And I have a team that's willing and ready to help anyone that wants to get involved to go that next step. So thank you for having me. I'm appreciative of this opportunity, and I look forward to staying connected.
Of course. Absolutely. And everybody watching and listening, we'll tap in with y'all soon. Peace.
Niggas skip the ball 'cause we mad at dogs. Snatching from 89 that we pack the drawers and we